Okay. All right, so let's go through it again. So I was saying now that this day value that we are checking here, the day is greater than 31 or day is less than or equal to 0. What we are doing is we are checking whether the value the user provided, right, if any of them evaluates to true, then set an error. So if this side evaluates to true, it will not jump to this side. It a short circuit. It will just evaluate this side. If this side is true, then it will set the error. Now set is error. Set is error. Let's go to the error. The thing that we are calling an error, the state called error. Error is an object, as you can see, that has 3 properties: first, second, and third. Now, within our, when we check for day, if day is invalid, then we need to call set is error. We pass it an anonymous function because we want to have access to the previous value. Then we spread it, and then we change the first property, the one that has the key first, the property first. We change that to must be a valid day. So it goes from being an empty string to being must be a valid day. Then we set calculated days to 0. Then we set calculated months to 0. This was what we were trying to do, and then set calculated years to 0. I believe we changed that functionality somewhere down the line. Let's see. Changed it somewhere. Yep. We changed it to now have the dashes. So we will go through that once we get to that point. I'll show you where that is actually happening. I don't think do we need this one anymore. Calculated days to 0. I don't think we need this. See. Okay. I hope this one is making sense. So when the day is invalid, then just change the first, the key first. Within the object, just change the one that has the key first to must be a valid day. And if we go into our card header, you can see here within our card header, right here, right? The one that is represents the day, you can see it's checking if error dot first is equal to an empty string, null. So don't return anything for that error message. Otherwise, if we have some information, if error dot first is set to something, then give us that value. That's why when we the wrong value, it's giving us must be a valid day, because must be a valid day is coming from the context that we set right here. Otherwise, if we don't have an error, then it does not render that error message, which is just a paragraph. If we go and look at that component, that birth date component, you will see right here. You can see it's just a paragraph that renders the error message. So when there's no error message, basically there's no, we don't render any paragraph. There's literally nothing. There's nothing on the UI. So I hope that one is making sense. And then since we have figured it out for the first one, we just duplicate the same thing. But this time we have different conditions because a valid month is not the same as a valid day, right? A valid day is 1 to 31. A valid month is 1 to 12. So we have, again, different checking. We're checking different types of conditions. So if month is less than or equal to 0, or month is greater than 12, then again, we repeat the same thing. Set is error, pick the previous value, spread it, change only the thing that has the second key. And then we set that to must be a valid month. Then when we render our birth dates, if I go back to my card header, you will see the component that represents the month is checking for a different error, a different key. This one is checking for error.second, not error.first. So same logic, if error.second is equal to an empty string, then return null. Otherwise, give me the error message. So when we have an error, it returns must be a valid month. That's why when you come and test it out and you give it 13, it gives you must be a valid month. If you give it a valid value, that should go away. If not, I have no idea why, but we will figure it out. But basically, that is why we only have must be a valid month up at chini. We'll figure out why we have a bug here. For now, let me continue explaining the logic. I'm assuming it has something to do with re-rendering. So when you go to the last one, which is the year, we do the same thing again. The year has different, we are checking for different conditions. Okay. We check for the condition right here. So if the year that we have been given, that we have provided, the user has provided is greater than today's year. So if you console log new dates .get full year, it will give you 2023. So if the user inputs something that is greater than 2023, then that is an error. So again, it does the same thing. It checks. It goes to set its error, then sets the new error for the third key or the third property in our object. That's why when you now go back, if you change this to 2024, must be the first. So up to that point, is there any question? Is there any question? Is it making sense how we ended up with this code right here for calculate age? It makes sense when we run the use effect for the first time, right? By default, it's going to do calculate age using the default values that we have for day, month, and year. So it's going to take 24 first and 1984, then calculate the age. It's going to skip the ifs, all of them. For checking, it's going to find out that they are all valid. So it's going to come down here to this section right here, do the calculating, set these values, set days, years, and months, then call set calculated days to days, then set calculated months to months, and set calculated years to years, and expose them to the context. So when it exposes them to the context, if you go to our age.csx, you can see our age.csx is using those values, those things that were exposed. Calculated days, calculated months, calculated years. Then we were doing a check. So is none, we'll check whether the value that you give it is basically not a number. So if the value is not a number, then it's supposed to return true. I believe that is what it does. Otherwise, it returns false. But in this case, we are negating it. Then we come down here. So now where we give our values. So at this point, we are now displaying our calculated values from our calculation right here. We calculated the days, the years, and the months. And then we use the setter functions, set those values. Then now we want to check. We are checking now. So if is number, right, if we check is number and we check our calculated years, and calculated years returns a truthy value, then what do you want? We want it to give us that actual value. So the value that was calculated, because it's not none. Otherwise, if we get none, if we get not a number, then give me 2 dashes. Then you do the same for months, then you do the same for days. That's why when you give it invalid values that do not evaluate to like real numbers, it's giving you dashes. So 241, we have dashes. Okay, we need to handle this because this is obviously not disappearing. But I think we've covered the gist of it. I think I've gone through all those components. Anything I need to clarify, or anyone who wants to add anything? Joseph, you have anything to add? You were our savior yesterday. We were about to give up.
Yeah, still have some bugs, but yeah, I don't have anything to
We still have some bugs. This thing looked very
that
simple.
validation.
When I chose this
Validation
project,
is hard.
nilichukua nikifikiria hii tutamaliza in like just that one session or two, maybe one ya kufanya the code, then the second session would be for talking about the code.
Yeah, it's easy if you use like additional external tools, but when learning, it's always good to try and write it out yourself.
Yeah. And I would encourage like everyone to go through the code. Reading other people's code is a huge part of like writing software and looking at how other people think. Yeah.
That's actually very true. Like it's probably the job. That's actually the job description, probably.
Yeah.
Because you want to go to a company and start a project there. You'll definitely be inheriting projects from other people.
Yeah. And you'll be reading other people's code.
Most of the time, actually.
It upskills you very quickly. You learn tips and tricks from other people.
But most of the time, it's always in the negative. Like you find you're the one that makes is supposed to make the code base better. Like in most companies, unless you go maybe to Google or something.
Yeah.
But small companies usually the code bases will need more work than like learning from it.
Yeah. Anyone with a question? This might look very intimidating. I think the fact that things are so decoupled sometimes it's difficult to track. Hivyo vile uko na context, alafu then you have your components that are using your context. I think sometimes that can be a bit intimidating. You wanted to say something, Joseph?
I wanted to say like this project probably like shows you how to use React like in most situations like conditional rendering, using state, using context, and also like working out logic, also using all those hooks that are available. Right, it was a good like project to do.
Yeah. So what do we do? Do we deal with the bug? Or
Mm,
do we deal with
the bug is definitely a re-rendering thing.
Yeah, that's a re-rendering thing. Ijui inafaa kurirenda.
Hebu kwanza enda kwa UI, you just try to think through it first. Like what's happening
We go to the of
to the
UI.
UI here. Ama tujaribu now optimize with some function or something. Like with the
Probably.
library to say we can create a branch from it and try doing it with the now something like DataFNS or Moment.
Moment would probably be way easier.
Tuende kwa UI.
I'm trying to think. So this one's vile ziko saizi, they are all valid. But hii haipotei.
This is it's an error from the previous. Just refresh and then try everything again.
If you refresh, it will work. But we now want to find a way to make it work when we give it 56. Must be a valid day, but when we give it a, we'll see, like a good value, a valid value, we want this one to disappear.
It calculates, but it doesn't get rid of the
error.
The error. So maybe go to adding the conditional rendering.
Hiyo lazima iko kwa, see, that has to be in the
birth date. Birth date. I guess error message you should. Now what can you use to render it conditionally? Like, can you go to that console log for the error? What is the final console log on it? This error. What is the last? Was it reset? I can't see the last one. Must be a valid date. It's not being reset.
Yeah, it's not being reset. So
can you go to the condition now? Back to the edge context. The conditional that checks the validity.
I'm gonna comment out. I'm seeing it for all of them. It cannot be that one. Maybe we set it to. Maybe we set it to null.
Like huku chini ama you reset hapo chini.
Chini ama within the actual.
Add this one. Add this one back. See, I thought it was only one that was behaving like that.
No,
it was all of them.
I think ni hapa because unaona pale mali we are doing the checking to see whether it's a none, kama ni none or not. Zero will not evaluate to it will still be valid, si ndio? Pale kwa is it let me check. Hapa kwa card header. Unaona hapa kwa card header where we are doing the is none iko wapi? I believe is none is so what is this one doing? This one is for the dash. This one is for the dash.
I think that is working, right? Because it's recalculating.
This one is working.
What about like after just below this set error? You do another set error. This thing it's quite repetitive, but just try.
So our issue is coming inakuja kwa sababu we are not
and not resetting that
setting the
error.
error.
Yeah, let's just try this first one. Just copy that yenye iko hapo juu.
Mm-hmm. But
If the conditional is not known, now you set it to an empty string here first.
we set it to an empty string. Wait, what? So this one is going to be where exactly E set error ingine?
Come again.
This other set E set error tuko nayo hapa chini. We want to reset it to an empty string, but at what point?
Yes.
What are we checking for?
Like you just reset because only one of them will run at a given like cycle, I guess. Like that was my initial thought, but it's getting quite repetitive. We have to like maybe refactor it.
But if we do it this way, wouldn't it reset it? Oh no, we are doing won't it? Okay, if it's invalid, it will come and set his error and do this must be a valid day. Sindio?
Yeah. And then if it's valid now, this other. So that's what I thought initially. Well, I'm also just trying to think through it. You can just try to test it and see.
I don't think it's going to work. This block, see, this block is for only when it's invalid, if statement.
Yeah. What about when it's valid?
Unless we have another if statement.
Maybe just try, you see. Trial and error. I let you error also. What if you put the correct one? Just change it to correct.
Wapi? Hapa the value itself, hapa kwa calculating.
And if it will calculate it. It's calculating. Condition errors, are we displaying the error conditionally? It may display too.
Yes, we are. Because I think now it's because it was working before. So it can work before. As in,
but now we need a way of resetting. Also that error when it's valid. Or maybe just do another. But now maybe do we need another if statement or
might need another if statement.
Or an else. Maybe or an else for each if statement. I'm not sure.
Are we passing this set is error down? Tunaipitisha chini to the context, to the other children. Maybe we can set is error when see.
It's three different components.
Add header. Hapa we have access to error.
Like the error is not being reset, so it will just pass through the props. We need some logic of resetting it when the value is valid, which definitely means it must be a conditional, like an if or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sema mambo.
I'm thinking
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's becoming so difficult for us to handle this error because we are handling it on submission. Could you maybe change the functionality
Mm-hmm.
so that the error checking runs when the user is inputting? So like we have inside the backdates components,
Mm-hmm.
instead of us setting data directly,
Mm-hmm.
we can have a function outside, and inside our handle change function,
Mm-hmm.
that is where we check for errors. That's something that will help, or it will complicate things more.
It will probably complicate things more.
It will probably complicate things more.
Yeah, we'd have to change a lot of things, I think. Would have kuchange vitu zingine mingi.
Okay. Let me
So,
keep going through this
what
step.
next? That was also a nice suggestion, bro.
Yeah, that's a very nice suggestion.
So
I think that's
also,
how
no,
we
no,
were
we
doing.
have too many pieces of state.
Mm.
Like following even what is happening is quite a bit hard. Handle submit, calculate age. So the error checking is happening inside the calculate age when the button has already been clicked.
Mm.
That's when you run the error checking. So what if it's go back to the edge context?
I mean, the age context. Do we?
So if it Apple the first if statement, if it's like that condition is true, we have an error, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you want to set error, and then after setting error, you want to reset. What about if you put an else for each if?
Hapa chini.
But now, what will you do inside the else? What? Yeah, hapo chini. Like reset the error for the first. That's what I was thinking initially, but it didn't work.
Return it back to an empty string.
What it was previously. It starts as an empty string, right?
Yep. Jaribu.
And ilikuwa my initial thought, but kile imechoka hata I'm not sure whether it's correct or not.
Rethink the whole thing. Should we rethink the whole application, Ama?
Hapo itakuwa like itabidi we move to something else, maze. Like this thing like tungeamua kutumia libraries ingekuwa 10 times easier. I guess we've already Lala. Okay. But it's quite repetitive. We have to look for a way of optimizing it.
Yep. Tujirudie, and then we will look for a way to optimize it. We'll have to break these things into functions. Something. Saa hizi zinakaa vibaya. Look very bad. Allah, what the hell?
We forgot to set it to an empty string.
Oh, no, let's hang on. Okay, acha tujaribu 244. Mbona mtu ako negative 1000 years? Okay, but at least we have solved one of the issues, one of the bugs, kind of. Do we use a library at this point? Is it now where we now need to reach out for something like Moment? We are too far in now. We just die on this hill. It would eliminate you fix our issue. Our issue is not calculating, is it? The issue is error handling.
The issue is actually validation. I think the biggest issue.
Yeah, the issue is that it's not.
So maybe what about like a form handling library?
From a form kit.
Like you can maybe you can just create a branch and then try to refactor using now external tools, so that like we can be able to compare with seeing how it would have been done, like using libraries now that are specifically designed to solve such like issues. And
this is not okay, it's like I'm in the wrong repository. Let's just create a new branch from this. Any suggestions? But what should we use? Not very familiar with this. Those are
React hook form. It's a nice from library. React hook form. And then it also has support for Zod. You know Zod?
yeah.
So it has like support for Zod. You can use Zod for the validation, and then React hook form for the collecting the form information. Because it gives you just like an error object. Like it will be maybe probably way easier to use this one.
It looks like a very nice implementation. Input useful.
Actually like it because it supports Zod. So it makes like input validation quite like intuitive and easy to do.
Mm. How about we do this? What if we decide like maybe we can do the refactoring as like a take home challenge. Maybe you guys can try to do it. Hata mimi nitajaribu. I'm pretty sure tukianza saa hii tutaenda kumaliza late kama jana. So what if we take it as like an assignment to do and then come and see what we'll have come up with by tomorrow.
Yeah, to explore two options. Yes, come up with what people are going to trial as an assignment.
Yeah.
Yep, like in terms of libraries.
React form. Is there another one that
Fungulia data finance for handling dates in a moment. Let's written S.
This one is also nice. Dates are a headache to work with in JS. You know, it's an open secret. Mimi, I
There's a
prefer.
new API coming, like for dates.
Oh, really?
I think it's called the temporal API or something.
It's about time. This is a very nice library, but for me personally, I use Moment, even though I think it's no longer being maintained. But it's very easy to use. So like if you download the package, then you have access to Moment. You import Moment, and you have, if you say moment.format mmm, basically it formats your dates for you. Can give you the difference. You can subtract.
Oh, it can the relative time.
Yeah.
That can be used in this project, right?
Yep. It's a very robust library. So this one is always my go-to every time I want to use it for some dates in JS, even for Mombasa database. Please reach out for this one.
Validation, as much we have to talk about Zod for validation, although it's server side. If you have a client app, you can still use it now with React hook form. But now that everybody's doing Next.js and all that, like Zod is very, very powerful. You definitely need to know about it. Because you're always handling user input after all. With Zod, it becomes very easy to do what we've been doing with those different multiple conditionals. You can just do it with Zod to check whether it's a string, whether it's minimum number of characters, maximum number of characters, whether it's an object. Like it's quite a nice library, especially when you're doing TypeScript. But you can also use it with JS.
Okay.
There's another one called Yap. I think Yap. Just search for Yap. YUP.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know it.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the popular ones. Object schema validation. It can be used on the front end, right? Like it's not like Zod.
Yeah. This one is actually mostly used on the front end. Anytime I've used it, I have a front end.
Okay.
What about Formic? Have you used Formic?
Yeah, Formic is also a good option. Especially, I think it works well with this Yap.
Yes, it does.
Like in a real application, you can't handle validation by yourself. You definitely have to use some sort of either schema validation library like Zod or something like that.
Yeah, forms are a pain to work with in JavaScript. I think all major libraries have some implementation of form handling. Zote. All of them have something they use to handle forms. So you can see even they know build forms in React without the tiers.
I've shared a lot of things this past few days.
Yeah. So maybe you guys can do some research, try to create your own branches, try to refactor the code, try to use one of these implementations. So kama ni mambo ya dates, you can either use Moment or Date FNS. Kama it's handling your forms, you can use something like Formic, mambo ya validation. You can use either Zod or anything that we have shared. But let me send the links in the chat so that you can write in your own time. But tomorrow, even for me, I'm going to implement it in a different way. Joseph, POS would implement, you try to implement it again.
Nitaifanya na Zod plus React hook form. Maybe you can choose a different set of tools that one the different.
So, send a moment. We also send it FNS. And React hook. Yeah, so you guys can copy those links. Then now tomorrow we will now look at how we'll have implemented it. Everyone that I will have implemented it, you'll take us through it, show us what you did. Yeah. So even for me, I'll try to finish it. Yote. Anyone with a question or something to add? You guys have been oddly quiet the last few sessions. Is it too complicated? What's up? I guess mmekuwa mmenyamaza.
Okay, mi niko na suggestion. So to answer your question about us being so quiet, it is true. This project is somehow complicated, and to follow along it's tricky, especially for a beginner.
Yeah.
So my suggestion is we can look for a simpler React project that implements the 3 states we have looked at so far without this complexity of dates, form handling, and especially for beginners, it can be quite a load. I'm not saying that this project is not good. In fact, it's good because it shows you how React is used.
Inatuanika.
Yeah. Yani inaonyeshana the power of React in forms, but because most of us here are beginners, I think it's a little bit complicated to start with. We can come back to it later. So unaona tumeanza stories za libraries na third party tools to handle such things like forms and dates. Yeah, I think it's too early, but hey, this project it's nice. It imetuonesha like how React really works. That's what I can say. Maybe that's my opinion, by the way.
Okay, that's Ruben's opinion. Thank you for that. Someone had raised their hand or someone. Nasikia kitu kwa messages. Fatma agrees.
That's a valid point, by the way. I agree with Ruben also. Yeah, it turned like a bit real quick, a bit advanced, like real fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we also like sort of dove into like a rabbit hole. We wanted to finish the functionality, like, yeah, but we can look for simpler. Like, what will be simpler? What will be a simpler project? I'm trying to think about one. Maybe this one we should have finished it after we just did the UI without implementing the functionality. That would have been a good place maybe to pause it. Then maybe we do forms. Then we come back to it. But yeah, I can definitely look for a simpler one.
We can even start with something as simple like a weather app, just to see how you can use state, effect, and context in a simple way.
I have an idea of a project. Maybe go just to front-end mentor, something that doesn't have functionality, just like doesn't have crazy functionality like this one. Maybe a card, and then we just say that we also add dark mode. You can implement dark mode with context. That will be a nice, like everybody just to do it on their own, and then we'll do it together after everybody finishes it. Because it will be, yeah, it wouldn't be that big of a project. We
We
just
could,
write okay, go ahead, Fatima.
sorry to interrupt you, but I was thinking the same thing. We could try there was the advice generator one that we did a while ago, but we just used regular JavaScript. So I was thinking we could do that one because it's pretty simple and there's not much functionality to it.
Yep,
Yeah, yeah, that's a nice candidate. Also, this, oh yeah, actually, definitely you can do the advice generator. You passed it. This one, yeah, it is. And then maybe just to throw like a spanner in the works, we do to dark
exactly.
mode and light mode.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm glad you guys have spoken up. Now because you guys were very, very quiet. Cannot amenyamaza hivyo. Yeah, so it's good that we now know. So maybe we can do this one instead, Basi. We can try to implement this one using React. So can we try to implement it by tomorrow? And then tomorrow we look at how we all implemented it. Or would you prefer if we all did it together, session moja?
Let's do it. Everyone does it, so that at least we can give some sort of code review. Let's see them write React, and then we can give code reviews. At least tell someone can improve here, can make this one better, and then we can also maybe do it everyone together, maybe something like that. Like everybody to we just see how people write the code. That will be the best gauge of maybe how much someone has already maybe learned. And that will be my maybe suggestion.
So we do it that way. We try to do it on our own, and then we can check on the progress tomorrow. So should I send this here? I'll send this in the groups. Yep. So we'll check on the progress tomorrow, Basi. Okay. Is everybody okay with that? The advice generator. Okay. Right. Okay. So we'll put the calculator up on the back burner for a bit, and then we will revisit it afterwards, for sure. Maybe when we've done a few more advanced stuff, then we'll revisit it and see how to implement it. Okay, right. So I guess we can end the session at that point. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Because it's first of all, it's a Friday. So we'll try to start the session at exactly 5:15 and be done by probably 7. Yeah. So, but if you have any questions in regards to that challenge, or if you're struggling with setting up scaffolding the React application, whether you're struggling with installing Tailwind and it's up to you. You can use Tailwind, you can not use Tailwind, you can use pure CSS if you want. You can just reach out and just say in the groups that you're struggling with one of the processes of like scaffolding the React application. We'll try to help where we can. Yeah, but other than that, have fun when you're building it.
Actually, like if you face any React question, just ask there. People don't really utilize that group that much. Whoever is there to help you, just post there. Definitely someone will reply to you.
Yeah, we have a lot of knowledge here.
Yeah, tons of years of knowledge. So and we're open like to share it if someone actually wants it.
Mm.
If you don't face problems like for a week alone, just post it there and we'll give you our inputs.
Mm.
Like full stack JavaScript or TypeScript, just post anything in regard to that. Ian or me or Albert or whoever, and even anybody within the group will assist you definitely.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. All right. All right. So I guess we can meet tomorrow to proceed. So we'll see where we will be tomorrow. But if you have any questions with scaffolding the application, just tell us. Yeah. All right. So you guys enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye. Oh, Wishi. Sema.
Yes, Poleni, invade your privacy. So I have a question, but it is on something to do with GitHub. So we were working on this project where kulikuwa na something like sikukumbuka nikiweka authentication that we needed for number, and now the person who is working on the payment side needs a phone number. I have implemented that, and then on their end wanataka ku pull the changes I've made so that they can finish up with testing and whatnot. Is it possible to do that without merging? And I don't know. Yeah.
Where's your code yenye iko na your the branch that has your logic for yenye iko na number iko wapi?
Iko kwa main tayari.
Iko kwa the main branch.
Yes, already, because it was just adding the phone number kwa models, and then that's it, because they just needed it equal somewhere in the database where they can fetch it to mwisho.
And does that person have access to that repository? Can they pull?
Yes, but now since anawaka kwa branch yake, so
well, yeah, he can just switch to the main branch and just do a git pull from the main branch.
Amefanya hivyo, amepata git pull, but now the question is, what about the code should written on the other branch?
Sitabaki tu hapo, that one will not be affected. So just whatever branch she's working on, she should commit the changes locally. So she should do a git commit. Then it will save the code for your branch yake. Then she can switch to the main branch, pull the code. Ile branch yake ingine itaafektiwa, it will remain the same. With the code that she wrote, hiyo itatoka hapo. So she should just go to main, pull the most recent changes, then go back to her own branch and maybe merge. Kama anataka kutumia hiyo code yenye iko kwa main, he should merge her branch with the main branch.
So either way lazima merge kwanza ndio iko updated on her branch.
Yeah, she has to merge ndio apate hiyo code yenye iko kwa main.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Okay.
Mwambie ana merge locally, asiogope sana kwa local machine, so
kumerge locally niko
haitaenda anywhere, like it's your local version of the repo.
As long
kuna
as
remote na kuna local.
As long as you don't do a git push, you are merging locally.
Yeah, you're safe. As long as, even if you do a git push, it's your branch.
Your branch, yeah.
As long as you haven't done the PR, you're okay still.
Wait. Yes. As long as
you go, I
think we were afraid because we were thinking we will make it in the comment, but we have not made a PR.
And as long as you're not pushing directly to main, you're working within your branch. The only way you can introduce the changes to main is through a PR.
Yes.
And maybe it has to be reviewed. So it's your gope.
Nice. I think you don't hatuko tunajua hiyo. Kulikuwa natoka uoga.
As long as just sometimes you can mess and push directly to main or master.
Yes.
You just have to be careful to make sure you check out the correct branch when you're doing your changes.
Okay.
But even if you push to the remote, if you pull, if even you delete the branch, there's hakuna shida as long as you haven't done the PR.
Okay then. Acheni mwambia merge locally and then amalize kazi yake.
Yeah.
The main and merge.
Remember merge locally. Pole.
Sawa.
Tuko kwa meeting nyingine. Haya, sawa. Acha
Yeah.
tusort hiyo.
Poa.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. I guess we can end it at that point. You guys enjoy your evening. Bye.